Welcome back to another episode of AI in Finance. AI in Finance is all about slowing down this fire hose of AI news to really distill the information in the headlines down to what it means to us within our industry of wealth management. How does it impact our team and our families that we serve? I'm Matt Reiner, and each month we take the most important developments in AI and translate them into practical insights for wealth management. What do you need to know with this information and trying to make it digestible? I was talking to an advisor last week who told me something that really stuck with me. He said, I don't need to know how AI works. I just need to know how it changes the work I do. And that really stuck with me because that's exactly what we're here for, what I'm trying to do with AI in finance. The pace of AI advancement feels like it is drinking from a fire hose. Every single day there's something new. And a lot of times it seems so scary because it is so fresh. It is so different. So this is a time for us to take a breath, to really slow things down and focus on what actually matters for you and your firm. And so today we're going to take a look at three headlines from the past month that I think can really fundamentally change how we all serve clients and run our business. So, with that, let's dive into headline number one. Headline number one: the rise of real time reality augmentation. Meta, Facebook, Meta, is developing super sensing AI software that can scan faces and identify people in real time. Imagine this. Close your eyes, keep your eyes open, whatever it may be, but imagine wearing Ray-Ban smart glasses that not only record your surroundings, but actually tell you who you are looking at. And Apple isn't far behind. They're working on specialized chips for smart glasses and adding cameras to AirPods and watches to enable similar AI features. For me, this is incredible game changing because I tend to forget names. For someone to tell me who that person was, when I last talked to them, and what they last told me within my ear as I'm walking towards them, that is game changing. And it isn't some distant sci fi dream. Meta's live AI tool can already record your day and answer questions about the surroundings in real time. When was I here last? What did I do here last? Who did I meet here last? Those are the types of questions it can have. And, it does have its downsides right now. It's still early, right? There's only 30 minutes of battery life within this technology. And it's really more of a tech demo than a finished product. But the direction is clear. We are witnessing a profound shift in human computer interaction. And I think that this is one of the more intriguing points of this headline. For 15 years, smartphones trained us to look down at our screens. The next wave will be about technology that looks outward at the world alongside us. That is a different way of interacting with technology. And the breakthrough isn't just facial recognition. That's been around for years. It's a matter of running sophisticated AI on devices small enough to wear all day. We're entering an era where the barrier between digital information and physical reality becomes increasingly thin. And I have talked a lot about VR and VR not having hit its AI moment, meaning that the cost of the technology, the practicality of it, the applicability of it, and the accessibility of it being these big goggles has been the reason it's been held back. This headline right here changes all of that. It creates that moment in my mind. Is it here just yet? No, but we're on the brink of it. Just remember when having Google in your pocket felt revolutionary, right? When not needing a library to answer a question seemed magical. I mean, I think for some of us, that's hard to remember. It's hard to remember that we used to have to use Britannica to go get information or go to the library and check out a book or use those films to learn about what was in the paper in the past. We're approaching a similar inflection point to that time when we went from going to the library to using Google. But instead of information about the world being available at your fingertips, it's about information about what's directly in front of you, and it will be whispered to you in your ear. Very creepy because it's totally new. It's totally unimaginable only in movies that we saw that, and it's coming to our real life. And I think that the point here as well is that the privacy concerns are obvious. But history suggests that convenience usually wins the battle. When your glasses remember everyone you meet and everything you see, your constraint shifts from what can I remember to what question should I ask about what I've seen? This is scary. It's interesting. Does it have legs? Maybe short legs. We don't know yet. But what does it mean for wealth managers? And I think there is something underneath this that it means for us in wealth management. Think about what happens when every client interaction becomes automatically cataloged, analyzed, and enhanced. That awkward initial conversation when you're sitting down with the client where it's like, remind me about, you know, what you did last time or what you've done since or what trades we made. Those moments would disappear completely. Your glasses might whisper to you, Sarah Johnson, 42, portfolio heavy on tech, daughter just started college at UCLA, husband recently promoted, last discussed tax loss harvesting in October. All of this as you're walking to get Sarah from the lobby, before you shake hands, before you start your Zoom call. This creates a paradox for sure. There's no question about it. There is a good and a bad on all types of innovations that push society forward. And so the paradox being that there's more intimate client relationships built on technology that seems almost invasive. So the question then becomes not if this technology will transform client meetings, but how we in the industry implement it in a way that builds trust rather than undermining it. Technology is not a replacement to us having to work for trust of a human relationship. Technology enables us to do more to build deeper, longer lasting trust. So, with this information, what should we think about? What should we do? How can we act on this today when it's still in its infancy? Well, I think that the first step is to start thinking about your data architecture. These technologies will only be as good as the client information you feed them. And so one thing you can start doing today is begin organizing your CRM data in ways that would be useful in a real-time context. We realized this in real time when we built an AI prototype in our own firm. And we realized that the only way it is effective is if we had the right data, which then steered us towards focusing on data architecture, because data is the name of the game here. Having control and ownership and understanding of your data will determine the effectiveness and the benefit and the power of any tech solution that comes on and comes out from here going forward. I think that the second thing that you must think about, and don't make a decision on this, just think through it. Consider the ethical framework you will apply, right? Under what circumstances would you use face recognition with clients? What type of benefits would it have to bring to then introduce that and have that conversation with clients? Don't just say you don't want to have it. Think about what would be a benefit that would lead you to want to have that difficult conversation, right? These conversations, having this within your firm today positions you ahead of the inevitable regulatory scramble in the future. So you can start just thinking about and building that into conversation. The last thing that I would say, and I say this with everything, this is my professional mantra, learn by doing, right? Experiment with existing augmentation tools as simple as just client real-time transcription and client meetings. Test that out. See how families feel having transcriptions happening during meetings. And as the families and the clients you serve and your team gets comfortable with the technology, assisting with this human connection rather than replacing them, it's going to be easier to incorporate and adopt these newer tools in the future. The firms that will win aren't the ones with the fanciest tech, but those who use it to enhance rather than replace genuine human connection. All right, moving on to headline 2, the unlimited age in AI autonomy. So, Mark Benioff, the Salesforce CEO and founder, described what he calls the unlimited age of AI, a future where machines increasingly manage themselves, write their own code, and operate with a growing autonomy. I'll include the link to this interview with Mark Benioff because it was just super insightful. A man that's been on the front edge of innovation for so long. He talked about that this isn't just an executive hyperbole. Tech giants are already delegating roughly 30% of their coding tasks to AI systems. We saw that Microsoft let go about 7% or 3% of their workforce recently, and a lot of those people were developers because they have automated a lot of the systems and a lot of the processes. And so what makes this technological wave that we're experiencing different from previous ones is its pace, how quickly it's moving, which is something we have talked about. which is why this is so important for us to stay aware of. As Benioff explains, everything that was true in AI a year ago or 6 months ago is not true today. If you weren't paying attention, you get left behind. Hence why you're watching AI in finance. This is what our goal is. Let's not get behind. And why are people getting behind? Well, it's because AI advancements happen largely in the open. It's not behind the scenes. We are seeing it in real time from everybody. When DeepSeek released their breakthrough R1 model, they open sourced the entire technology. What does open source mean? Open source means that they have allowed other developers to use and write into that code themselves. Apple, for instance, your iPhone looks largely the same as it did years ago because Apple's development is proprietary. They're not allowing other minds outside of Apple to make it better. It's Apple's proprietary software. But AI development has academic roots, meaning researchers share breakthroughs and everyone builds on them immediately. And that's what open source is. Everybody can build on it, learn from it, share about it, and then build on it again. And so now instead of having just the 100,000 or so Apple employees building the iPhone, you have hundreds of millions of individuals that have opportunity to learn, iterate, and provide feedback and build on something again. That is exponential scale and exponential speed to get something created. Benioff has also incorporated AI into his executive decision making. I think that this is super interesting for how we can think about using AI as a partner. He describes planning sessions with the quote, three of us: himself, another executive, and an AI system. He asks the AI to evaluate business plans, great ideas, compare approaches against competitors, yet he acknowledges its limitations. The AI knows what it knows, but it doesn't completely know what it doesn't know. And if you know the quotes of the smartest people, they know what they don't know. So AI may not be the smartest person yet in the room. But I want to just share that we have done this in our meetings where we have AI on voice mode and we have it as a participant in our meeting. We mute it when we don't want it to hear, and then we then unmute it to ask it a question. And it provides us another perspective that then the group of humans are able then to go take and discuss and dive deeper into. It's a super interesting way of using AI beyond just asking as a chatbot. According to Benioff, we're progressing through distinct AI eras. And I think that this is interesting for us to remember as we continue to look at using AI. We're going from the co-pilot age, where AI offers suggestions, to today's age, which is the agentic age, where AI takes independent actions, meaning that it is acting on your behalf, sending an email, scheduling you a meeting, whatever it may be. And we're going to the robotic age, where AI powers physical systems. Robotics and robots seem like they are scarier from the movies. And it's not necessarily that they're scary, it's just that they're unknown to us. And so we just have to get more comfortable by talking through it, as opposed to saying that it's so out there that it's unreal or unrealistic. Let's start understanding it so that we can become comfortable with it when it comes, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 10 years into the future. Benioff suggests that we may reach that quote unlimited age, where as he puts it, we're given birth to some new species. This is where Benioff's conversation goes a little bit sideways, but it's something that we need to be aware of. Not necessarily saying that it's a definitive path. It's something to be aware of in a time and place where things are changing. So the most immediate manifestation is what Benioff calls the digital labor age, right? Digital labor. Salesforce Help Center has already processed over 500,000 customer conversations autonomously. Companies like Singapore Airlines are building what he terms as an agentic layer over their entire operations, fundamentally changing how they interact with customers. And just recently, I saw that a Y Combinator startup company just put out a posting for 3 agents saying humans don't apply. I need agents to help me. There is this world where we have people managing robots that are agents that are doing some of these simple tasks before us in our eyes for us, where these agents are doing simple tasks for us with our oversight. That is not too far in the distant future. And understanding that is what Benioff is trying to provide here in this conversation. The wealth management industry is fundamentally about translating financial complexity into human terms. As AI becomes more autonomous, your value, our value as wealth managers will shift from being a knowledge repository to being an interpreter of knowledge. Not just telling clients what they should do, but helping them understand why. These are what we are doing both right now. We are both telling them what they should do and helping them understand why and finding the knowledge. But now we can double down our efforts into helping them understand why and creating that connection. And when everyone has access to the same AI powered analysis, your differentiation will come from how you contextualize the analysis for each client's unique circumstances and psychology. The wealth managers who thrive won't be those with the best technical knowledge anymore, but those who can bridge the gap between AI capabilities and human needs. And I think that this is why it's so important that we talk about with the future proof advisor needing to have self awareness, contextual awareness, being able to create connection, being able to ask great questions, having empathy, having understanding, because those are the skills that are going to separate humans in a world of AI. And that is what we can double down on. That is our opportunity that we can invest in today. And the other reality of all of this, of what Benioff has said here, is that client expectations will accelerate dramatically. When clients see the capabilities of AI in other areas of their lives, they'll expect similar responsiveness and sophistication from us in wealth management. And if your tech stack feels 5 years behind what clients experience elsewhere, your expertise alone may not be good enough to retain them. And we're already seeing this. Clients are comparing us not to our competitors, but to other technologies they interact with, the Apples, the Googles, etc. in the world. And so we must keep up. So how do we do that? How do we take action on what this means for wealth management? Well, I think it starts with collaborating with AI now, right? Benioff mentioned that three of us in planning sessions, himself, another executive in AI tool. I think that this is a great starting point. Try this approach. Include an AI in your next investment committee meeting or planning session as a thought partner, not just as a research tool. Utilize ChatGPT's voice mode and have it part of the conversation. Ask it questions, see what it says, and you'll see how you can start to use it. I think also identify your human only zone. What aspects of your client relationship simply cannot be replicated by AI, and double down on those areas. Maybe it's helping clients stick with their plans during market turbulence, or facilitating difficult family conversations about wealth transfer, or it's just that ability to go play golf with them, or to go play tennis, or to go to dinner with them. Those types of opportunities. Double down on that opportunity. And finally, this is something that I've been working on over the past 18 to 24 months as I've delved into AI, is develop a learning schedule. The pace of AI development means continuous adaptation is essential. Set aside dedicated time, non-negotiable time each month to explore new AI tools and capabilities, particularly those that can help you deliver more personalized service at scale. And if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, some of these larger tools, maybe some of your first few days or hours spent is just learning how to use those tools better, as opposed to continuing to add more tools and become overwhelmed. So those are 3 ways to take action on what Benioff has been explaining in a recent interview. All right, headline number 3, Microsoft's recall and the memory revolution. This is something super intriguing. You may have heard about this before, but it's now back in the headlines. After nearly a year of delays addressing privacy concerns, Microsoft has finally launched its recall feature for AI-enabled PCs. This isn't just another update. It is fundamentally reimagining our relationship with information. And recall gives your computer a photographic memory of everything that crosses your screen. It's continuously taking screenshots as you work and makes them searchable using plain language. Want to find that chart about quarterly revenue from last week, or the article about tax strategies I read last month? Just ask, and Recall finds it for you. And now you see why there was a year delay, because they launched this without thinking about security concerns, and the backlash was real. But they went and they restructured everything, right? The initial announcement raised serious alarms. I think serious is an understatement from security researchers. Software constantly capturing screenshots of sensitive emails financial information, and private communications, well, you know what that did? It was the obvious privacy risks that were exposed. And so Microsoft pulled back. They delayed the release and they completely reworked the security architecture. So the version that is launching now addresses many concerns. And here's how it does, right? Recall is opt in rather than default, right? It includes content filtering to prevent storing certain types of sensitive information. And the data stays on your device rather than in the cloud with encryption to keep it secure. So, what makes this significant is how it changes our relationship with information. We've talked about it on the podcast. Human memory is notoriously unreliable on any type of, even if it's a special memory. The specifics of that memory become more and more vague or more inflated as we move forward in our life. We forget where we put things, what we read, what we said. They could find a file if you remembered its exact name and location, but not if you only remembered what it was about or when you last looked at it. And recall represents that convergence of these strengths. The computer remembers everything perfectly, while natural language processing allows you to search the way humans think, by content and context rather than by file names and folders. This is part of a broader shift toward intent based computing, where you express what you want to accomplish and the computer figures out how to do it. What's particularly interesting is that these features run locally on your devices thanks to specialized AI chips, which address many of the privacy concerns that have limited AI adoption. But what does running locally mean? Well, the difference is that when you interact with ChatGPT, you are tapping into the cloud because you're using the internet. So you type something on your computer, it goes to the internet, which then taps into OpenAI and then brings you back. If you don't have internet, you can't use ChatGPT. What's different here is that because this software is in your computer, then you can run this whether you have internet or not. And that then creates a lot more security because you don't have to transmit data in between the cloud and your computer. It stays local. That is a huge development. That's a huge shift. And to have a chip that's able to manage that is going to change the trajectory of how AI is built in the future because it creates some security and privacy and also some personalization of it on your local computer and local desktop. That is super interesting. So, what does this all mean for wealth management? Well, information overload is the default state for most wealth managers. Between market research, client communication, regulatory update, portfolio analysis, critical information often gets lost in the shuffle. Recall type technologies essentially give you perfect retrieval of anything you've ever seen on your screen. What was the last time I talked to John Smith? What was that? I was thinking about John Smith, whatever it may be. Then you now have this recall technology to help you. It changes the economics of attention, which there's both a good and a bad to. But when retrieval becomes effortless, you can process more information without the fear of losing it by losing track of it or where did I put it or having to write down everything. You can just use your memory. The constraint shifts not from what can I remember or what do I need to write down, what do I not need to write down. It shifts to what questions should I ask about the information that I've seen? What questions should I ask about where I need to go or what I used to do, right? You have to become better at asking questions. That's why we need to invest in being better at asking questions. For client relationships, though, this means never losing track of the small details that build trust. That article about collectible cars you saw that would interest your car enthusiast client, that research on education funding strategies for your client with young children, all instantly retrievable at the moment you need it. I'm on the phone with that car enthusiast client. I'm like, I know I saw that article somewhere. I can ask the recall feature, get it, send it to my client right then and there, which makes it more real time, more personalized, and more efficient. That is the benefit and the opportunity that there is with some feature like this. So, what are some action steps that we can take to help go move forward towards this? Not necessarily to accomplish it yet, but to move towards it. And I want to give the disclaimer that this technology is not on all Microsoft PCs yet. You have to have an AI enabled computer of Microsoft in order for that. So if you're interested in it, you have to go find that. You don't have it just naturally on your computer yet. So I think that one step that we need to take is rethink your information consumption strategy. If perfect retrieval becomes possible, considering broadening the range of information you consume, knowing you can find the relevant pieces when you need it. This, to me, is something that I think is game changing. We all tend to silo our ways into just 1 to 10 sources of information to get all of the information that we need in the world. If perfect retrieval becomes an opportunity, can we broaden our perspectives beyond just a couple sources of information? Why we narrow in on certain sources today is because we have limited brain power to consume multiple levels of information from multiple information sources. This changes that. So think about what that would mean to you. Begin experimenting with natural language search in your existing systems. The future of information retrieval is conversational. Practice describing what you're looking for instead of remembering where you put it. I think that where we can also work on this is within LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity. If we can get better at being great at delivering prompts to our AI technology tools that we're using, then when this technology becomes more mainstream in our day to day, it won't feel like that abrupt change. We will already be great at it. So start working on how good you are at using prompts within AI. I think that we also have to focus on asking bigger questions. When retrieval is no longer the constraint, the quality of your queries become the limiting factor. While tools like Recall could be fantastic for documenting client interactions, they also create new regulatory concerns. So the time to start having these conversations with compliance team is now. Understand what the regulations are. Get them comfortable of what's out there so that when this feature becomes mainstream, as I said, it's not an abrupt change to them. I think that the best thing that we can do in innovation is bringing our compliance teams along with us, not as just an inhibitor to us. When you bring them along, they get comfortable along the way. We become understanding of the concerns, and it allows us to go and innovate and use these new technologies in the right way, not in the way that we think that we can. And that is super important in a compliant oriented way. That's a roundup for this month. 3 developments that might seem like distant futures, but are already reshaping the present moment. Remember, the goal isn't to implement every new technology the moment it appears. The goal isn't to act on everything that we talk about. It's to thoughtfully consider how these tools might enhance what matters most: your ability to help clients navigate their financial lives with confidence and clarity. The thing about this is that if you can take one thing from what we talked about today and incorporate it into your mentality, into your action, into your firm, you are going to be better over the next 30 days than if you were not. It's not a matter of doing everything, it's a matter of doing something. When I look at the most successful advisors adapting to AI, they share one trait. They're neither dismissive skeptics nor overeager adopters. They're curious experimenters, testing small applications, learning from the results, and gradually expanding what works. And I hope you can do that too. Until next month, I'm Matt Reiner, and this has been AI in Finance, helping you ride the wave of innovation without getting swept away by it. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in 30 days with another dose of AI clarity in our increasingly complex world of AI.